Alright, how's it going, guys? So, this weekend, Chelsea were at home to Southampton in a game which they threw away to draw 3-all when they at one point led 2-0. The real issue here was that it was a decent performance, just ruined by some big individual errors. So, with that in mind, I'm going to get into the week's player ratings. Up first is Kepa Arrizabalaga, 5 out of 10. I can already hear everyone who saw the second goal he let in screaming, he should be getting 0 out of 10, he should be getting minus 10 out of 10. But honestly, apart from that second Southampton goal, he didn't really put a foot wrong. He commanded his box well, he made some decent saves, even his distribution was quite good. But at the end of the day, the less said about that second Southampton goal, the better, and it sees the Spaniard finish with a very unspectacular 5 out of 10. Next up is Cesar Atpaliqueta, 6 out of 10. This was very much didn't do much wrong but didn't do much right either performance from the captain. He was as solid as ever at right back but wasn't his usual busy self going forward. Next up is Andreas Christensen, 6 out of 10. Honestly, I was hoping that Fikayo Tomori would start ahead of the Dane, but in the end he ended up putting in a pretty decent shift. On to Christensen's defensive partner, Kurt Zouma, 5 out of 10. And the funny thing here is that I actually think Zouma put in the better performance of the two, but leaving your goalkeeper in no man's land with a crappy back pass like that is just an unforgivable offence from a defender. While Kepa didn't exactly cover himself in glory, I think Zouma is probably more at fault for the incident, and it saw him go from a 7 out of 10 down to a 5. On now to left back Ben Chilwell, 6 out of 10. Attacking wise, he was great. He got 1 assist for Teemo Verner and was unlucky not to get a second after an early headed effort by Verner was ruled out for offside. Defensively though, he was okay at best. He had a couple of hashed clearances and was caught up the field a couple of times, forcing Zouma or Kante to move out and cover him. Speaking of Kante, he's up next with a 7 out of 10. While he was sloppy in possession on a couple of occasions, he was back doing what he does best, which was sitting in front of the defence and mopping up everything that came his way. Hopefully this performance makes it clear to Lampard that this position is the only position for N'Golo Kante. Sitting alongside Kante was Jorginho, who's scoring a 6 out of 10. Honestly, he earned this just from his beautiful assist for Werner's second goal alone. In the first half, he masterminded everything that went on in the midfield, and then he just stopped. As the game went on, he looked more and more tired, and when the 70th minute came around, it probably should have been him getting subbed off rather than Mason Mount. Mason Mount himself, I'm scoring a 7 out of 10. Chelsea's attacking midfield trio were pretty great in this game, particularly in the first half. Mason did show some flashes of how creative he can be, but he was guilty of disappearing from the game on occasion. Up next is Kristin Polissich, who I think all Chelsea fans are glad to see back in the starting lineup, but is only scoring a fairly modest 6 out of 10. He did show some very promising moments going forward, but couldn't quite recapture his form from last season, which is understandable considering he's only just back from injury. In the second half, he was probably the biggest culprit of getting lost in a game that the Saints started to dominate. The final midfielder to look at is Kai Havertz, whose mixed bag of a performance has earned him a 7 out of 10. He showed some brilliant touches in the first half before giving the ball away to the Saints for them to score their first. He then seemed to redeem himself when he scored midway through the second half before sending a free header over the bar when he should and probably could have put the game to bed. But for those of you that remember, in a previous video I challenged Kai, Pulisic and Ziyech to score a combined 30 league goals. So, after 5 weeks, his goal does mean that I can finally do this. Feels good. Now, on to the star of the show, Teemo Verner, 9 out of 10. Like I said, for the reasons why this result went wrong for us, there's a few players to point a finger at. But you definitely can't point one in his direction. As if his amazing 2 goals weren't good enough, he showed his selfless side to put the ball on a plate for Havertz to score Chelsea's third, when he could have easily gone for goal himself. A truly classy performance from the German. Hakim Ziyech came off the bench to play his first 20 minutes for the club, and he did enough to earn himself a 5 out of 10. He looked like he was trying to impress, rushing around to close the ball down and trying to play on the front foot, but the problem was, this all came at a time when the rest of the Chelsea players weren't interested in doing the same. This meant he gave the ball away quite a few times, but I'm sure that as he returns to full match sharpness, we'll begin to see the best of Ziyech. Reece James and Tammy Abraham also came off the bench, but too late in the game to give them any kind of meaningful score, so we'll leave the player ratings at that. If you enjoyed this one, guys, don't forget to like, comment below your thoughts on these ratings, and subscribe for more footy chats. Hopefully, I'll see you all in the next video.